Welcome to Studio 5. Today's lineup includes recording artist Michaela, a preview of the highly anticipated film Conclave, and a college linebacker who overcame depression, anxiety, and injury. Let's begin with Michaela, a recording artist with new music from a younger perspective. But she's connecting with young and old with real-life experiences set to music, including her single Working, that's W-E-R-K-I-N-G. Michaela was also part of the Tennessee State University Band, which made history at the Grammys, the first collegiate marching band to do so.
One, two, three, four.
Have you ever worried all night till dusk starts dawn? Feels like the sun peep through your blinds and say good morning.
Whoa, whoa. When did you know you could sing? You're what, 20 years old now?
Yes, I am.
When did you know you could sing? What happened?
I would say when I realized it was around 7. My mother has been singing to me since I was a little girl. And so I think it didn't dawn on me like I might be able to do something until I turned around 7. But I think my voice started developing around 12 is what I would say.
You've been to church, but have you found Jesus?
I was in maybe the 11th grade, 12th grade. I was eating Cheerios in a plastic bag on the phone with my mama. We were just talking about something. I had just got off of school. And a random number called me. And so I'm like, Mama, this random number is calling me. And she was like, well, answer it, which was strange because normally my mama tell me don't answer anybody who number you don't know. And so I said, okay, yes, ma'am. So I answered the phone and a man said, hi, this is E.J. Gaines from Motown Gospel. And we'd like to talk to you. And I'm just like, Motown Gospel want to talk to me?
I had most of them. That's when I found you. Keep your head up.
And so from there, that's when, you know, all of this stuff, it took about maybe a year to get the whole thing in process, but that's where it started. And I think I've always known that I can sing, but I think it was in that moment that I realized that this was going to be a lot bigger than I could even have imagined.
I swear this can't be made up. But every day that I wake up, living in God's favor, and heaven showing me what it's made of.
So we're sitting now, you've released your first EP, correct?
Yeah.
And it's called Prelude.
Yes.
Why Prelude?
Because it's just the beginning. It's just an introductory to, you know, who I am. And I grew up around a lot of different kind of music. I grew up in so many different things musically. And so it's kind of hard to put all of that in one project as an opening to the world. But it's Prelude because this is only the beginning of what God is going to do and what I'm going to bring to the music industry, hopefully, as an artist.
Nice. Now the song that people are talking about now is
Working,
and
yes.
Working, and it's spelled W-E-R-K-I-N-G.
Yes.
Explain to people why it's spelled that way.
Because you need to work, okay?
Man, just putting work for me. Man, just putting work for me. Heaven doesn't work just in church, honey. That's why we sing.
But it's just a, you know, a fun way of spelling it. You know, I'm only 20. I act like I'm 87 on the inside, but I'm only 20 years old. So I wanted to, you know, have something that connects with my audience, my group of people, you know, people that love God, that are young. But, you know, still, you know, down with the get down, you know? So.
Keep working for me.
What inspired that song? How did it come about? Because
So,
angels working for you,
yeah.
God's favor in your life.
Yeah, so what happened was we were in the studio just picking out songs, Sir the Baptist, and I think he had to go do something, but I was in the studio and he sent the song over. And so we were still kind of like figuring out the like Bible, the song, how it was gonna go or whatever. But Sir the Baptist wrote it, and he wrote the song completely and produced it, and yeah.
Nice. Nice. Did the connection to Sir the Baptist come for you from being at TSU? What happened?
Actually, that's a story within itself. So what happened was I was going through my Instagram, and Sir the Baptist commented on one of my posts like months before I saw it and was like, I'm the only one in gospel that's gonna write a hit for you on for your first project. And I was like, okay, so I responded to him. So we were getting everything together, and what I did was I sung on the TSU project that won a Grammy last year. And I forgot what song I did, but it was really dope. And so I did that song. And then right after that, he was like, where are you going to college? And I was like, I don't know yet. I'm still deciding. And he was like, how would you like to go to TSU? I was like, oh, you funny, honey. Like, he was like, no, I'm serious. And I was like, okay, like, I would love that. And so I thought he was just talking. And I think maybe a week later, he came back and told me that TSU wanted to offer me a full ride to Tennessee State University.
Nice.
And so what a blessing. God is just, the way I think my life has been orchestrated from the beginning of the process all the way to now, it's just, it's easy to say it's coincidental, but God is just so specific and precise about how it all went down. But anyway, so after that, I got the full ride to Tennessee State University, and then I did the whole promotion and everything for the project. But then from there, it was like, I want to produce your first EP, and it was like, okay. And so that's how that whole thing happened.
I just couldn't work for me. Heaven doesn't work just in church, honey. That's why we sing. Oh, keep working for me. Oh.
Michaela has a new single. It's called Give Me You. You can get it wherever you download, purchase, or stream your listening material. Still to come.
The Pope is dead. The throne is vacant.
A Studio 5 first look at the film Conclave with some of the cast. How familiar were you with the conclave process? It always seemed a bit of a mystery to me. How much did you know?
I didn't really know anything about it. I knew only about that they sequestered themselves for a bit, and then there was white smoke and black smoke.
And welcome back to Studio 5. The highly anticipated film Conclave begins with the death of the Pope and then follows a cardinal's journey to guide the process of selecting a new one. In that, there are secrets revealed that could shake the foundation of the church.
The Pope is dead. The throne is vacant.
For all of you, what's your connection to the Catholic Church before this project?
We are all Catholics.
We were all raised
We were all raised
Catholic.
Catholics.
The men who are dangerous are the ones who do want it.
That sounds ominous.
So I went to Catholic school pretty much all my life, sat through the selection of a couple of popes. How familiar were you with the conclave process? It always seemed a bit of a mystery to me. How much did you know?
I didn't really know anything about it. I knew only about that they sequestered themselves for a bit, and then there was white smoke and black smoke.
I wonder if I could have a word in private.
You look anxious. Everything under control.
How has this been kept a secret for so long?
I had read the book when it first came out, and I was fascinated by it, by the intrigue, by all the political machinations, the subterfuge, the complex relationships, and the bizarre ancient rites in order for them to make their final decision. It's fascinating. I think people will find it fascinating. That coupled with I think an absolutely beautiful script and imagery that is stunning, I think has made for a really beautiful film.
What happened?
They say a heart attack.
You know how rumor spreads, and 1.25 billion souls watching.
Well, Cardinal Lawrence. It seems the responsibility for the conclave falls upon you.
You play Cardinal Lawrence, so you you lead this process, correct?
Yes, I'm the Dean of the Vatican. The Dean is the person who's responsible for the running of the conclave.
The supervision of this election. This is a duty I never thought I'd have to perform.
Lawrence is a man who's going through his own crisis of faith at the time the film starts, when the Pope has just died. So it makes him quite a complex character. I was brought up Catholic. I have to say I stepped away from the faith when I was in my teens. I've never lost any curiosity about what it is to have a faith, but I think my interest is more eclectic, I suppose, than the Catholic Church. I think is challenging in many ways in the world today. But I know there are people within the Catholic Church who are deeply spiritual people who've given their lives to the good. But I think it's not surprising. People of faith and people who have held faith, whether they are nuns or priests or not, I think they often encounter life is difficult for a lot of people, and your faith can be challenged by life, by what you see in the world, the terrible things that go on in the world, and I think it can easily lead people to some form of despair. But I think what is heartening about this film, I feel, is that the quest is for the right person to lead the church, a spiritual leader. And I think without giving things away, you know, the call for the right spiritual leader seems to be answered in the film.
Have you seen the papers? Mm-hmm. Apparently it's already decided it's to be me.
And I happen to agree with them.
What if I don't want it? No sane man would want the papacy.
Some of our colleagues seem to want it.
Isabella, you play Sister Agnes, and I would like you to speak to the silence of Sister Agnes and then finding her voice in a critical moment.
Yes, I think Sister Agnes is silent. She took the vow of being a servant to the cardinal. But she hasn't given up her authority.
I hardly think a drop tray should concern the dean of the College of Cardinals.
Even so,
The welfare of the sister is my responsibility.
I think because she's not in the brawl, in the political discussion, sometimes she can have even a better judgment. And I think she never forgets that doubt, mystery, is also what the church represents above all. It's not so much the politics, right and left, but what we don't understand. And the film ends with that great ode to mystery. And I think that Sister Agnes has that, because she can't speak, but she has authority. And on the other hand, because she's not part of the brawl, she can remember more easily what is the spiritual responsibility of the church.
If there was only certainty and no doubt, there would be no mystery. And therefore no need for faith.
Conclave is in theaters beginning October 25th. We want to let you know that it does contain adult subject matter. We need to take a quick break, but as we do, it's time to share this week's story in pictures. Here's your Studio 5 snapshot for this week. We salute a life well lived in Thelma Mothershed Ware. She is one of the members of the Little Rock Nine, the 9 students who walked through the front doors of Central High School in 1957, paving the way for desegregation in America. Ware died over the weekend. At 83, she was the eldest of the surviving members of the historic group, and her courage is seen today in generations of Americans. This look at her story in pictures is this week's Studio 5 Snapshot. Just moments away.
The anxiousness of not being able to display what kind of player I am. Honestly, I was depressed for a little bit at that time as well.
A college linebacker overcomes a battle with anxiety and depression after an injury almost derails his career. Welcome back to Studio 5. 35% of elite athletes struggle with their mental health. There's pressures from coaches, fans, and that internal desire to be perfect. 2 years ago, North Carolina's Kaimon Rucker battled anxiety, depression, and injury. Today, the Tar Heels linebacker is a potential NFL first-round draft pick.
Tim Cross, the defensive line coach, said of Kaimon Rucker, he said, he's a rolling ball of butcher knives. A rolling ball of butcher knives.
The announcers enjoyed it, and so, you know, we shortened it down to the butcher, stuff like that, and, you know, that's kind of how the whole persona came, just off of that one compliment. I started to realize that I internalized a lot of things because of my mindset, because that I always wanted to push through things, because I was always determined. I've done that to an unhealthy amount, to the point where I just was a shaken up soda bottle at the time. I was just like, at any given moment, I could like explode in terms of just like, I could cry, I could get upset for no reason. I was just in that mode where I was like, I couldn't figure out where I was. I had to be real with myself and understanding. It was just like, I don't need to play football. I play football. It's just like I'm separate from what my sport is. With the realization of that, I had to fall back on my faith, really fall back to what really gave me peace, what really gave me reconciliation of who I am as a person, and just understanding is if all things were to fail, if all things were to crash down, who can I definitely give my love to? And I was Jesus. I had to really get back into the Word. I had to get back to start praying. I had to get back to these things, even though these are small things that even as Christians often look over, those were things and stuff I had to get back to doing, because these little things is what caused me to have big jumps in my life, to have big jumps in my success, in my accolades and things of that nature. And being a D1 football player, there's going to be a whole bunch of things that's happening around you, but that doesn't mean that you still can't profess your faith. That doesn't mean you can't be true to who you are. That doesn't mean you can't be you. And so I wanted to just really set that tone for the rest of the team. I want to fulfill whatever purpose God has for me, whether that is in NFL, whether it's not, whether that's in somewhere else. But we sometimes as Christians, we have to be real with ourselves. You have to be real with God. God said, come as you are. You don't ever get clean to get into a shower. You know what I'm saying? You got to get into the shower dirty in order to clean yourself. That's how you got to come to God. So it's just that's when you got to put your faith in Him, and that's why the faith means the world to me, because I can go to God however way I am.
Kaimon Ruckert was named the Region 8 AAA Defensive Player of the Year in his junior season with the Carolina Tar Heels. Welcome back to Studio 5. Music helps us to bring you this show each and every week, and this week's soundtrack comes from Craig David. Take a listen and you'll hear why In Your Hands is what's playing in my ear this week.
You got the whole world in your hands. 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 You got the whole world in your hands.
The whole world is in your hands. On that musical note, we are just about out of time for this week's edition of Studio 5. So let's take a quick look at what we have in store for you on next week's Rundown.
Picked me up, gave me a brand new start.
It's a Studio 5 special with actor Dennis Quaid, exploring things you know and some things you didn't know. One thing that I saw that I didn't recall or remember is you got to play with Tupac.
Be downtown, on the set, and we'd order Chinese food and have in the trailer, and we just talked for, every day. Spent a couple hours just talking, and about his mother, about his career, about acting. He had a real thirst to learn.
Hey, be sure and join us for that and so much more next week. As for this week, we've got time for just one more thing. We want to give the final word to Michaela. You could go back and speak to little Michaela, who's just finding her singing voice. What would you tell that little girl?
Little Michaela, I would tell her to deal with her fears now instead of waiting until she got older. Be confident and continue building herself up in the Word of God. I think a lot of the things that we deal with now can be combated with the Word. For every issue we have, there's a solution in the Word of God. So I think when I was a lot younger, I dealt with fear and just being afraid, and it was just something that I just shied away from. It's like, well, I'll just not do this because I'm scared of it. And so now as a 20-year-old, I'm on tour and I'm dealing with being afraid or being nervous, but not like a normal, regular nervousness, almost like a crippling, oh my gosh, I'm scared to do this. I don't know if I can sing it. But I feel like if we deal with things when we're children or when we deal with things at the root, when they happen, we won't have to deal with them later. And we know that the Bible talks about how He hasn't given us a spirit of fear, but a power of love and a sound mind. And so I think that's what I would say to me, to be confident, to be courageous, build yourself up in the Word of God, and you are who you are authentically, and God hasn't made you to be anybody else.
Hey, Michaela, thank you so much. That's a great final word for this edition of Studio 5 and for this week's look at uplifting entertainment. Until next time, make time to uplift someone around you and then come on back. See where Studio 5 takes you next week. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye, everybody.